I love going fishing on charter boats. This was my second time out on the Saltwind out of Anstruther. The first time was not too successful, but I had higher hopes for this trip. After a slow start, trying a range of techniques including baits, lures and feathers, we pressed on further out towards the Isle of May. I had never heard of the Isle of May until today, and I was surprised to learn that it's home to a colony of puffins. I had associated puffins with the north of Scotland and island groups like the Orkneys, but apparently, here off the Fife coast, there was an island that was sometimes home to up to 90,000 of these small birds. They were not present in anything like those numbers today, but in addition to the puffins we had sightings of shags, razorbills, guillemots and a cormorant. It was here, close to the island, that the fishing picked up. Naturally, the couple of first timers on the boat were the first to strike fish, as we reeled in line after line of decent sized Coley. Normally I would return Coley, however the skipper insisted we keep a few for use on their wildlife safaris, for tourists to throw to gannets and the like. We must have reeled in dozens and dozens of fish, although most were returned. Sometime after I had lost count of the number of Coley I dragged on board, I decided to switch methods back to squid and mackerel baits in the hopes of a nice cod, but alas, I was unsuccessful. We steamed back to the harbour with our buckets full. As I mentioned, I don't normally keep Coley for the table. I don't find them to be worth killing and would usually rather just return them. On this occasion, however, I was persuaded to keep a couple of the larger fish. I thought I may as well try and make the most out of them to see if I could change my own opinion of the humble Coley. When I got them home, I took off the fillets, removed the bones and skin, and tidied them up. I learnt how to prepare fish at college where I studied professional cookery, but unlike riding a bicycle, this is not a skill that stays with you when you don't keep in practice. Despite this, I think I did a pretty good job. I then sprinkled the fillets with salt to drive off some of the moisture and to make them more plump and firm, and set them aside in the fridge overnight. The main reason I've previously dismissed Coley is the very small flakes give a bit of a mushy texture, but pre-salting helps with this tremendously. I have a few go-to recipes for white fish, and I wanted to try these fillets in a tandoori style fish curry. The following morning I made a marinade from yogurt, olive oil, pepper, salt, cumin, turmeric, smoked paprika, curry powder and lime juice. I should have also added grated garlic and ginger, but I forgot to get any, so I didn't. I dabbed off the excess moisture that the salt had expelled from the meat overnight, and cut the fillets into chunks. I think I thought this would give more surface area and more room for the marinade to work, but actually by the time they'd shrunk from cooking, I think the pieces were too small. Next time I would just cut the fillets in half, or even leave them whole. I stirred the fish into the marinade, covered it and set it back into the fridge until dinner time. Later in the evening, the first thing I put on to cook was the rice. I'm using basmati rice here, and to get that fluffy, aromatic takeaway style rice, I'm cooking it properly. That means rinsing the rice fully so that the water is no longer cloudy, adding exactly the right amount of water to the pan, setting on a high heat and allowing it to come to the boil. Once the rice is boiling, give it a really good stir, move to the lowest heat your stove can do and cover with a lid to finish cooking. Do not stir the rice. While the rice is cooking, I prepare the curry sauce. I already have a white onion sliced up from another dish and a bit of mashed sweet potato. I wish I hadn't put the sweet potato in, it was too claggy and made the sauce too thick. I chopped up red and green peppers and a red onion into big chunks. I fried off the onions first and made sure they were nice and soft before adding the peppers and the red onion. While they're cooking down, I prepared the coconut. I like to use these blocks of coconut cream. Good tinned coconut milk is almost impossible to find now. It tends to have a lot of added water and thickener, either for cost or to reduce fat. I took the block of coconut cream, roughly chopped it up, and added boiling water to melt it. Back to the pan, I finally chopped some garlic and added half. I added some water to make sure everything browns evenly and nothing burns. Once I'd cooked off some of the water, I stirred in some korma paste. I choose my curry paste based on the flavour rather than the heat level, and korma is nice and creamy and aromatic, so it goes really well with this dish. But you can use whatever paste you want, and add some chilies, fresh or dried if you prefer a more spicy dish. You could even make your own paste from scratch, or just use dried spices and a bit of tomato paste. At this point, I check the rice for doneness and to see how much water is left in the pan. I tilt the pan to see if there is any free water left and taste a little rice off the top to taste if it is cooked. Do not stir the rice yet. I added the sweet potato to the pan. As I mentioned earlier, this was a mistake, don't do this, followed by the coconut cream. Don't worry if it's not fully melted and there's still some chunks. As you can see, this sauce is way too sticky and thick because of the sweet potato, so I added more water. Once the sauce has been allowed to cook a little bit, it's finished, so I move on to the fish. I'm cooking the fish under the grill. On a barbecue would be best, but obviously I'm not lighting the barbecue up for the sake of this. I covered my grill pan in foil, this will be very messy if you don't, and placed my fish on the pan. I grilled it on a medium-high heat until the top was starting to brown and the fish is cooked through. While that's under the grill, I made some garlic butter for my naan bread with melted butter, the garlic I retained from earlier, and some flat leaf parsley. I warmed the bread through in the oven, and once the fish was cooked, it was finally time to stir the rice. Just look at how fluffy it is. I plated everything up with rice and bread on the side and sauce over the fish. Honestly, the little chunks of fish don't look very attractive. I really should have done whole fillets. I really enjoyed the fish itself though. The Coley definitely benefits from the pre-salting and the marinade, and I would definitely do it again.